Hey, this is Author Kate Perkins. In part two, we're going to discuss the final 3 steps that I took in losing weight. So let's pick up where I left off from part one. I realized that this was going to be a lot of work because I had been overweight for so long. I also realized that this was going to be a slow process, which was okay and actually the best process for me, because every time I had done something that would take off a lot of pounds real quick, I always put pounds back on more. I know I did not want, and things that would not work for me would be weight loss pills. Surgery would not work for me, programs, and I'm not saying that they don't work for everybody. I know how I am. I didn't want to go to a program or go through a program because I didn't want to have to constantly be on Zoom or constantly go to a meeting or talk to somebody. And some people, that's good. They need that support. They need to have that accountability. Despite the fact that I'm all over the internet and talking about my life in detail to everybody, I'm actually an introvert and I don't like being constantly around other people. So I can be around people and I can tolerate that up to a point, and then I have to kind of back off and spend a lot of time by myself doing things that I enjoy. And that's just the way I was brought up, because I'm the youngest of 3. I do a lot of things that are solitary activities. So me going to a group or to a meeting constantly, telling them what I'm doing and all that kind of stuff would not have worked for me. That would have irritated me more than the actual weight loss. So I knew I wasn't having surgery because I've had so many surgeries. I also didn't want to do a diet. There are things that, diets that come out that if you eat all of this one food or this one vegetable or this one cereal or whatever, you'll suddenly drop all this weight. I didn't want to do things like that because I also know me that if I perceive that I'm suffering, then I'm not going to stick with something. And I don't know where I got such an entitled attitude and such a bougie kind of feeling about things, but if I feel like I'm suffering about something, I'm not going to stick with it and I guess maybe it's just human nature, nobody really wants to suffer. And I think that's a lot of why people don't stick with these fads and weight loss things and things like that. Even without the extra weight, the way my body is made, I am not able to, let's say, the polite way to put it is I'm top heavy. So I'm not going to be out jogging and running and things like that, no matter how strong and well my foundational garments are. It's not something that I'm going to do. And especially at this point, being so much overweight, it's very, very hard on my bones and my joints to actually do a lot of jumping around and things like that. So I knew I had to get to a certain level before I could ramp up my actual moving and things like that. But I got the device on my wrist, and I was extremely surprised to find out some days I move less than 100 steps in a day. If 10,000 is supposed to be the regular normal amount of steps to work towards, 100 was an awful number. I needed to find this out, and I needed to face where I was at. Well, the labs came back. I wanted to wait to that, and that in my mind was going to be my start date. I didn't make any big announcements or anything like that. I had actually been working on making the appointments and things from the beginning of December, but I started the actual decision process, step 1 and step 2, the end of November, right after Thanksgiving, all the way through December. Step 3 came in January of 2021. I was in more trouble than I even thought I could be. So we had some jockeying back and forth and some concessions that I had to make. I had to get one of those help I've fallen and I can't get up monitors. But in case something happened while I was in here trying to lifestyle change, I needed to have a way to be able to instantly call for help. The instrument on my wrist needed to be hooked up with them so they could make sure, 1, that I was following through on the lifestyle change, and 2, could see my heart rate, and when things, if it went up and stayed up or something like that, then they could initiate some type of rescue for me. So there were kind of concessions that I had to make, and I wasn't crazy about wearing devices and things, but I understand the need for them, and I'm not Stupid. I agreed to them. I had shoes made that actually had molded custom insoles that fit my feet. I was going to start slow and make small changes. The doctor agreed. So I started slow. And step 3 was to make small changes and start slow. Most I had walked up to this point was like 100 to 300 steps. So I took whatever the day was before, and I think it was like 320 something steps. And I said, okay, next day I'm going to walk 400 steps. And each day I tried to walk a little bit more. Some days I did, some days I didn't. And I didn't beat myself up when I didn't. It was like, okay, you didn't make that today, so tomorrow try again. And it got to be a motivating thing for me to be able to get up and walk a little bit more than I did the day before. So, and the not putting any pressure on myself, and actually there was a sense of liking myself and liking who I was that I hadn't had in a very long time, because I was actually trying to take care of myself. I wasn't ignoring what I was doing. I was living very consciously and trying to live better, and liking the fact that I was trying to do something for myself. There was also a sense of accomplishment, no matter how small the achievement was. I walked an extra 100 steps. I got up and did something that walked around the house, or I got up and walked outside for a minute or something. Those kinds of things, they seem small and insignificant, but when you don't do them at all, doing those things gives you that small sense of achievement that you've actually accomplished some goals. So I started small. I didn't put any pressure on myself. And as I did that and began to increase the number of steps and the number of things that I was doing, and I began to start burning fat and start losing weight. I didn't have to eat anything different or strange. I didn't have to, eat only one vegetable or only this, that, and the other. It was actually a well-balanced meal. It was more than I was normally eating. So I was satisfied where I wasn't hungry all the time at first, and it was a very difficult thing because I had a raging sugar addiction. I had to deal with that, and she gave me alternative suggestions. She gave me alternative suggestions to the potato chips. She gave me alternative suggestions to the sugar, what would happen while I was detoxing off of sugar. And it turned out to be kind of work intensive in the beginning, but by that time, and because I had been moving more, the moving more was becoming habit, the watching what I ate, not eating the trigger foods, which were the potato chips, the ice cream, the chocolate cake, that kind of thing. So it was more habit, and it became something that I wanted to do because I saw that I was sticking to it for longer than I had stuck to anything. This was starting to work, and the pounds came off slow, but they did start coming off. There was no big plan on how these steps were developed. These steps didn't come about as a program. They came about as the next natural course of things that I should do for me to move this process along further. I went through step 3, which was the slow changes and starting slow for a little while. And I'd say that was about February, March. By this time, I had started losing weight. I was maybe a little under 20 pounds that I had lost. It was a small amount, but I was feeling better. I decided it was time to increase my steps even more each day, to change things up. And this was April, May now. By this time, I had pretty much understood what I could eat, what I couldn't eat. But I found that because I had eaten tons and tons of carbs, that I noticed if I ate more protein, my body sort of responded to that more. I tended to look for keto-type foods, but without the fat part, which is really hard. But it's not saying I couldn't have fat, but I just had to make sure everything stayed within the numbers that would work for my body. And I also noticed that if I ate protein right before I went to bed, that my body would tend to continue losing weight overnight. It was really kind of weird, but that's what worked for my body. And it wouldn't be like a bunch of weight. It wouldn't be like I lost 10 pounds overnight or something like that, but it tended to go down if I had had a lot of carbs. At this point, I realize I'm worth the hard work because I'm feeling better, I'm losing weight, and I'm now learning how to eat. I'm learning how to eat right for my body. So I'm learning portion control, I'm learning macros without it actually being called this and without it actually being a suffering type thing. I'm able to eat any kind of food, and I can eat any kind of food. The reason I don't eat potato chips, ice cream, and chocolate cake is because I know me, and I'm honest with myself. If I eat it, I'm not going to eat just one piece. I'm not going to eat just a little bit of something. I'm going to eat the whole thing. Back to step 4. Step 4 was I saw the changes and the gains that I was making, and so now I need to step it up, because I realized that you get to a plateau and you get to a thing where your body adjusts and says, okay, what you going to do now? I'm at the point now where I need aerobics because the weight has come down, and this, at the time I'm recording this, it's July 17th, 2021, and I'm 46 pounds total down. I am walking more. I've lost dress sizes. You can tell in my face. I haven't gone through any horrible hard boot camps, or I don't have any weight loss drugs or anything like that in my system. There are some things that help other people, motivational things like talking to a nutritionist or having motivational quotes put up around their house, or keeping a food log, or keeping a diary or something like that. I don't drink alcohol, so I didn't have to worry about the sugar of that, because alcohol is really nothing but sugar. It turns into sugar in your body. I don't smoke cigarettes. I don't smoke anything, as a matter of fact. I don't even know why I identified cigarettes as opposed to pot. I don't smoke anything. Don't get it twisted. It's not that I feel that I'm better than anybody else about a lot of things. They're just things that I don't do. Also, don't be hard on yourself when you don't do something. If you don't make your 10,000 steps for a week or a month, if you eat a little bit too much carbs, or you eat a little bit of something, don't throw your hands up and say, oh, well, that's it. It's over. I might as well go back. No. If those kinds of things happen, always go back to step 2 and start again from where you're at. And there have been times that I've been sick. There's been times that I just didn't feel like walking, and I'd only get 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 steps in a day, and that for weeks. So don't feel bad about that. Start from there. That's your new baseline. Okay, 3,000 steps is where my new baseline is. It's better than the 100 steps that I did in the beginning, but I know I need to do better than the 3,000 steps if I'm going to keep making the progress. And then when you're able, when your mind says, okay, you can do this, and you get that motivation going, however you have to get that motivation, if you have to get it from other people, if you have to get it from looking at yourself in pictures, however you have to get that motivation, then you start doing better when you can start doing better, and you start walking 4,000 steps, 5,000 steps. One of the things that helped me was a fitness program, a pedometer program actually, and now they have all these fitness challenges where you can, online, where you can walk through countries. At one point, I went to YouTube and would find a walking tour video of a country that I hadn't been to. It's actually a person that's walking through places, and they have usually a GoPro camera on. It's just like you're walking through it, and I just stand there and walk in front of the TV. And it feels just like I'm walking through this place, but I'm getting the exercise in. I'm getting the steps in. If you can't walk outside, walk in the house. There were days, I live in Southern California, and now, especially this year, there's days that it's hot, blazing hot. So I can't walk during the day. I can walk in the morning and get maybe a couple thousand steps in the morning, but for the rest of the day, and I'm an author. I sit down and I write. I sit down and I do podcasts. I sit down and I do vlogs, and I'm sitting and editing. So all day long, I'm sitting down. Somebody comes and, wants to visit, and I go outside, then I'm sitting outside visiting, but mainly I'm doing a lot of sitting. So I walk in the house. I have a circuit, and this is not a large place, but I have a circuit, and I just walk back and forth until I get as many steps as I can. And when I first started, I started out walking inside, because the thought is that, you walk 10 minutes one way, then and you're tired, you got to walk 10 minutes back. And that's probably the most miserable other 10 minutes that you could spend in your life. So if you do it in the house, you can do the 10 minutes and sit down. And that's how I built things up. I didn't try to go outside, walk a mile outside. Did it all in the house in the beginning. Sometimes all I could do was walk in place. And I did that to videos. There's a ton of videos on YouTube of walking exercises, actual well-known programs that have fitness routines. There's fitness routines for older people, and even if you're not an older person or a senior, you're in your house, so who cares? And who cares about what somebody else thinks? You're doing something for yourself. So don't let somebody else try to talk you out of it or shame you into anything. So if you're 20 years old and you have to look at a program for seniors who sit down and exercise and you have to work with that, then you work with that. But you do what you have to do. And that's all in part of step one of making the decision. You decide that enough is enough and you do what you have to do. You start from wherever you're at, no matter how many times. There's no shame in starting over again. You make these small changes. When you're making the small changes from whatever point you're starting at, it's always to the mind and the eye of doing better. Consistency is the one thing that helped me, is to consistently be focused on getting my health back. And that's how I got down to the 46-pound loss that I'm at now, making the small changes, starting off slow, loving myself, knowing that I can take care of myself and I can do a lot better than I had been doing all these years, recognizing the small gains and changing up things when it got to be stale, changing up foods, changing up activities, went from walking to aerobics, sometimes just dancing to old songs, old 1970s music, disco music. That was step 4, is the small changes and changing things up. And step 5, the final step, is celebrating your accomplishments. I know that I have a lot more to go. I am celebrating the fact that I did get to this point. It has been this long, and I feel very proud of myself. The one major thing that I noticed is when I celebrated before, I celebrated with food. It was always, oh, hey, I did this so I can have this cake, or oh, hey, I did this so I can have, the ice cream or the this or the that. When I celebrate now, even if it's just a major satisfying feeling that I have accomplished this, there are things that I can do now that I couldn't do before. I celebrate now by getting things that I've wanted, things that will help me towards a healthier lifestyle. I've gotten into hydroponic gardening. My celebration of accomplishments are spending the money I would have spent on 5-gallon tubs of ice cream is now being spent on things to further my lifestyle, my current lifestyle, and to further the healthiness of me. I bought myself a couple books because even though I have devices to read ebooks, and even though I write ebooks, there are a couple books that I wanted to read. So there are things that I celebrate now with that are not food related. All my celebration now are things that I enjoy, things that will bring me peace, things that will bring me meditation, things that will bring me health, allowing myself to be able to play and be happy about where I am and what I've accomplished. That's step 5. Be sure to celebrate your accomplishments. If at all possible, try to celebrate it with something other than food. I've stopped using food as a reward for doing things, and I found that the things that I've replaced it with as a reward are far more satisfying than that piece of chocolate cake that's going to be gone. So those were my 5 steps. Like I said, these steps come up as the situation changes. I don't know how many total steps there will be. I know that there will be more than these 5 because I know I have another 54 pounds to go. There will be more steps. I want to be able to tell you how I did it, so maybe some of these tips or suggestions or some of these methods might work for you. I hope it does work for you. It has to be a decision that you make, and it has to be a decision to actually make a lifestyle change as opposed to just losing weight. Whatever you need to do to transform your life into what will work for you. See your doctor, find out where you're at, make small changes. As you make small gains, figure out alternatives, change it up, and celebrate your accomplishments. Sounds simple when you say it like that. Second hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Rewards are far greater than you could possibly imagine. So until the next time when something different changes and more weight loss comes off, and I'll tell you how I did it then, keep on moving out there.